Hello, my dear friends. I'm going to show you guys the four-step formula that we use in our business to value vacant land. If you guys are new here, my name is Sumner Healey. I run a business called landinvestor.co where we help teach folks how to grow and scale 6- and 7-figure land investing businesses. All right, guys, this video has been requested dozens of times, and it is this age-old question of how do I know that A, I have a good deal, or how do I value the property in terms of making an offer, or how do I value the comps to figure out what the property is worth once I own it. There's so much confusion in this area of valuing vacant land. I'm going to show you guys the 4-step framework that we use. Is super easy. Doesn't matter if you're a novice in this business or if you've been doing it for years, you can implement this and start building out better offers and better comps on your land flips. Step number 1, similar in features. This is a cardinal sin that I see far too many novice land investors making mistakes in. So what you want to look at here is every property is going to have some kind of characteristic or feature to it, whether it's related to the topography or it's related to the fact that it has foliage on it or it has a river on it or a lake on it. Every property is going to have its own kind of DNA sequence, its own little intricacies to it. And when you're looking at comps, you want to be finding like-kind properties that are similar in features. And so if you have a property that is fully wooded and you're comparing it to a property that has no trees on it, you could reckon the property with no trees on it is going to be of less value. And so if you're creating an apples to apples comp and saying that this property with no trees is worth 50, so mine's probably worth 50 because it's same size, same area, you're doing yourself a disservice. And typically what we see is actually people make the inverse of this mistake, where they have a property of lesser value and they're comparing it to something that has better features. And so because it has better features, they assume, well, it's similar enough to my property, mine is probably worth about the same. And people are sorely disappointed once they go and list a property and ultimately sell it at a smaller price tag than what was initially quantified when they're going and looking at that first comp that was different in terms of the features that it had on the property. And just to give you a quick rundown on features, again, we could be talking about topography, we could be talking about road access or road frontage, we could be talking about access to utilities, we could be talking about if the property again has water features on it, or if it's wooded or not wooded. So things like that, right? These are going to be the main quote features that you want to look out for. And so if you're comparing other properties, you want to make sure that they have as close to similar features as possible. Now, in a lot of situations, you're never going to find a one-to-one example, and that's why land is so hard to price. That's why land is an incredibly inefficient market, because a lot of the values out there, A, are subjective, and B, there's simply not enough data out there to find one-to-one examples. And so you might be the only property that has a septic system on it, but no well, but has a 40-degree slope in the back and a bunch of, old ponderosa pines on it. Like, there may be nothing else like it out there. And so that's why comping land can be tricky, but you want to keep in mind, try to find stuff that's as close to your property in terms of features that'll set you in a good path. Next, close in proximity. And yes, we are ranking these in order of importance. The closer we can find a comp to our property, the more weight it's going to hold. I see a lot of people looking at comps within a county. They say, well, there's a 5-acre on the north end of the county that's worth 40,000, but mine's on the south end, and they assume that's going to be somewhat similar. Go to any city, go to any county, you'll find that there's a ton of variation in terms of real estate values. This is going to apply to land as well. And so you want to find comps that are as close to your property as possible. If I can find comps that are within like a 1-mile radius, those are going to hold more weight than a comp that's in a 10-mile radius. So anytime we're doing our comping, we always start with the micro. We're zoomed in the property. Can we find anything that's close to the property? Then we'll kind of zoom out. And in some cases, if I can't find any land that's sold by the property, I'll start going and looking at houses that have sold. Can I find a house that sits on a similar size of plot of land, and then just figure out, hey, it sold for 200 grand. Well, our property's probably worth 20% of that, so call it 40 grand. Things along those lines. That's how important proximity is. I mean, I'll get to the point where I'm comping a house just because it's close to the property. If I can't find any land, again, of course, we're going to want to zoom out until we see everything, but we're always going to start our comping process being as close to the property as possible. 3, recently sold. We want to look at comps that are as new as possible. As the market's shifting, as the real estate climate here in the US is changing, this is becoming more and more important. So comps that happened a month ago are going to hold more weight or more significance than comps that had 3 months ago. And really what we're seeing now is, as the market's shifting, people are making too many mistakes with their comping by looking at sold comps from 6 months ago or a year ago when the market was radically different. And so if you're looking at comps that are that old, you're going to want to apply some kind of discount percentage to it, or ideally find comps that are as recent as possible. The sooner that property is sold, the more weight we're going to apply to it. 4, and this is a nice little ninja trick, and this kind of applies to the recent sales, and this is looking at pending sales. Pending sales are our secret weapon in our business. A lot of folks just ignore them, they don't look at them. These are properties that are actively pending right now. Someone has submitted an offer on the property, so A, we know that there's some level of demand in that market. If there's pending sales, that's a really good sign that there's some activity going on. And then also on top of that, it's a really good indication of what actually is happening right now with offers and what land is actually worth in the here and now. So really is like as close as real time as we can possibly get. Now, sometimes you don't know what the pending offer is at. Sometimes people will just list a property pending at the list price, and so we actually don't know what the offer was. But again, it's a good data point. It's not a perfect data point. Like anything in this business, there really is no perfect data point, but it sets us in the right direction. So that's it, guys. This is the framework that we use. This is the framework that my team uses anytime they're comping a property that comes inbound to us. We're first looking at close in features, then we're looking at close in proximity, then we're looking at recently sold with applying more weight on how recently a property is sold, and then we're looking at pending sales. So this helps us determine what land is worth, which then in turn helps us figure out what an offer price is. Now, a lot of people want to tell you that you should just use an offer percentage. We don't do that, right? The way we go about our process is we fact find, we work with the sellers, we figure out why they're even looking to sell. We create ranges in our business where we say, okay, the property's worth 60,000. Ideally, we want to buy it for 15. We could go up to 30, so we have that range in our mind. Then I let my team negotiate, build rapport, go through the sales process, and figure out what is the price the seller wants. Why are they even reaching out? Let's go figure out what their problem is, fix that problem, then figure out what number is going to fix that problem for them. And so it does inform us in terms of what we should offer, but we don't just apply a blanket offer percentage to it. I think it's a little bit silly. So typically we'll send out a range offer or a blind offer, let them come inbound to us, and then we negotiate and structure the deal from there. It's very rare that we just send out an offer and it's perfect right off the bat. But this is going to give you a really good starting point to use in your business. So hopefully this was helpful. If it was, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Take care.